The desert landing. The desert was dead quiet. Even the coyotes, who usually howled somewhere past midnight, had gone silent. Eli Mercer, ex-Marine turned park ranger, stood just outside his trailer, sipping cold coffee from a tin cup. A summer night. Wind kicked sand around his boots as he scanned the sky. Just another sleepless night, until something strange streaked across the stars. No, through them. It wasn't a plane, wasn't a meteor either. It moved like it wanted to move, fast, controlled, alive. The object arced downward and vanished behind the nearby ridge, followed by a distant boom, not explosive, but deep, like the earth itself had hiccuped. Eli set down his mug, grabbed his flashlight and sidearm, and climbed into his Jeep. Within 15 minutes, he reached the ridge. He slowed when he saw the burn marks in the sand. A black, smoking gouge carved across the desert, like a finger had dragged molten glass through the landscape. His headlights hit something silvery lodged at the far end of the ditch. No bigger than a car, but clearly not of human design. No wings, no exhaust ports, just an oval pod, cracked open like a cocoon. Then he saw her. She stumbled into the light, barefoot, thin, wrapped in metallic cloth that clung to her like second skin. Her long silver hair clung to her face, soaked in sweat, skin pale with a faint shimmer. She carried something, a bundle wrapped tightly in her arms, glowing faintly from within. Eli stepped forward slowly, hands raised. "Hey, it's all right, you're safe," he said, voice steady from years of military training. "Are you hurt?" The woman collapsed to her knees. The child, a girl no older than 3, rolled gently from her arms and into the sand. She didn't cry, she only looked up at Eli with wide, violet eyes that shimmered under the moonlight. The woman coughed violently. Blood, or something like it, spilled down her chin, not red, blue, glowing. She looked up at him, eyes desperate, glassy. "Take her," she gasped. "Take her as your own. Please, they're coming." Then she fell silent. Eli rushed forward, checking for a pulse. None. He didn't even know if her biology had won, but she was cold, too cold. The girl reached out to him. Tiny fingers latched onto his sleeve, and then, somewhere behind him, a low hum. Eli turned. In the distance, above the horizon, 3 orbs of light hovered, moving slowly but deliberately, closing in. Silent. No rotor blades, no jet trails, just soft, eerie motion, like glowing predators on the hunt. His instincts kicked in. He scooped up the girl and ran back to the Jeep, cradling her tight against his chest. Behind him, the silvery pod hissed, then imploded in on itself, vanishing in a flash of light and wind that knocked him to the ground. By the time he scrambled back into the Jeep, the glowing orbs were closer, close enough to see that they weren't machines in the traditional sense. They pulsed like jellyfish, organic and alien, as if they were alive themselves. He floored it. The Jeep tore through the desert, headlights bouncing. The child didn't cry. She just stared at him, calm and silent. "What the hell is going on?" Eli muttered, halfway back to the trailer. The lights disappeared. He parked hastily and ran inside, locking the doors behind him. He laid the girl down gently on a makeshift cat and checked her over. No injuries. Just a strange tattoo on her wrist, 3 interlocking circles, glowing faintly blue, like the blood from her mother's mouth. He sank into his chair, staring at the girl. She stared back. "You understand me?" he asked softly. The girl tilted her head, then nodded. "What's your name?" Her lips moved, voice small but clear. "Nayari." That wasn't English, but somehow, he understood it. Then, suddenly, she blinked, and her eyes changed. No longer violet. They flickered through several shades, green, blue, gold, until they settled into a human hazel. Eli blinked. So did she. Then she reached for him again. Before he could ask anything else, a sharp knock sounded at the door. Not a friendly knock, rhythmic, measured, trained. Eli froze. No, one should have been able to follow him here. Another knock, same pattern. Then, a voice, muffled through the door. "Ranger Mercer. We'd like to ask you a few questions about what you saw tonight." Eli stood slowly, gun in hand. He looked back at the girl. Her eyes were glowing again, this time a warning. The message, buried in her blood. Eli didn't answer the door. He stood frozen, back against the wall, pistol raised. His military instinct screamed, "Don't engage unless you're ready to kill or die." The knock came again, slower this time, like whoever was outside knew he was hesitating. Playing with him, he leaned toward the window and pulled the curtain back a sliver. A black SUV sat outside, engine running. 2 figures in plain dark suits waited at the door, hands empty, posture calm. But something about them didn't sit right. They stood too still, too symmetrical. Military, maybe, but not American military. The girl Nyari sat quietly on the cot, unbothered, watching. The knock stopped. Eli waited, breath held, listening. Then footsteps. Moving away, he crouched and picked up the child. She wrapped her arms around his neck like she'd done it 100 times. He crept to the back door, eased it open slowly, and slipped into the shadows. 10 minutes later, they were on the road again. He didn't know where he was going, only that he needed to disappear. Fast, he drove until he reached a small, worn-down gas station, 50 miles away. One he used to patrol but hadn't seen in years. The lot was empty. Inside, he found a payphone that somehow still worked. He fished out a crumpled scrap of paper from his glove box and dialed. "Hello," a gruff voice answered. "Cade, it's Eli." A pause. "You said you'd never call this number unless it was a matter of national security." "It's worse than that," Eli said. "I need your help. Now." Cade Morrigan lived off-grid in a canyon compound, surrounded by layers of junk that masked advanced surveillance tech. A former NSA linguist and conspiracy theorist, he was the kind of man who always expected an alien arrival, but never expected a friend to bring him one. "You're kidding me," Cade muttered, squinting at Nyari. "She's not a hybrid." "Is she? Tell me she's not a hybrid. That'll confirm everything I've seen." "She spoke to me," Eli said. "Without speaking, she knew my name. Then she said hers, and I understood it." Cade's expression darkened. "That's linguistic resonance. Some of the stuff I read back in '09 suggested aliens could encode meaning directly into perception, like telepathy, but with structure, grammar." She changed her eye color. "Cade, DNA-linked mimicry. We theorized it could happen, but no one ever." He stopped, turned to Nyari. "May I?" Nyari nodded. Cade pulled a scanner from his desk drawer, a repurposed medical tool from his DARPA days, and ran it over her wrist. The 3 glowing circles there pulsed faintly, almost reacting to the device. The scanner beeped, then shorted out completely. "What the hell?" Cade whispered. He grabbed a small scalpel. "1 drop. That's all I need." Eli flinched. "No, she's not in pain," Cade said calmly. "And if what I think is true, her blood doesn't just carry oxygen. It carries information." Nyari tilted her arm toward the blade. "Brave." Cade made a shallow incision. A single drop of glowing blue blood welled up. He caught it on a glass slide and immediately placed it under his digital scope. His eyes went wide. "She's carrying a data sequence in her bloodstream," he muttered. "Encoded helixes. This isn't biology. This is a message." Eli leaned in. On the screen, the DNA strands weren't just spirals, they had branching patterns, repeating glyphs, language, designed, crafted. "She's a living hard drive," Cade said. "Encrypted, but not for their kind. For us, she was meant to be found by someone human." Eli swallowed. "Why?" Cade didn't answer. Instead, he reached into a drawer and pulled out an old black case. Inside was a thin strip of metal covered in etched alien markings, something Cade had smuggled out of a dig site in the early 2000s, back when he believed Earth had already been visited. He held it beside Nyari's tattoo. The symbols matched perfectly. "They've been here before," Cade whispered. "They left messages for us. This isn't just a warning, it's a test." Eli looked down at Nyari. She was looking up at him, not afraid, trusting. "Her mother said they were coming. She begged me to take her. Said I had to. Take her as my own." Cade nodded slowly. "It's not adoption, Eli. It's inheritance. You weren't chosen at random. Something in your past, maybe your bloodline, ties into this. You were meant to find her." Then static. A sharp electric whine buzzed through Cade's computer. The lights flickered. Eli stood, instincts on edge. "What was that?" Cade checked the cameras. Static on all screens. "We're being jammed." Then, outside movement. The trees didn't rustle. They froze. Everything went deathly still. Cade grabbed a weapon from under his desk, an old railgun prototype. "They found you." Eli picked up Nyari's gun in his other hand. Suddenly, the front window shattered inward, and a figure stepped through the broken frame. Black suit, clean, human, but not quite. Its eyes glowed faintly gold. "Give us the child," it said. voice flat and wrong. Eli didn't hesitate. He shot. The bullet hit, but the thing didn't fall. Instead, it looked down at the wound in its chest and smiled. "They're not who you think they are." The thing that looked like a man stepped forward, unfazed by the bullet wound still glowing in its chest. Eli didn't flinch. He fired again. A second shot slammed into the thing's shoulder, staggering it. This time, a thin glowing filament oozed out instead of blood. The smell hit next, metallic like scorched copper and ozone. Not human, definitely not human. "Cade, the back door," Eli shouted, grabbing Nyari tight in his arms. Cade fired the railgun. The charge exploded with a sound like thunder in a tunnel. It hit the intruder square in the chest, launching it back through the broken window. It didn't scream. It didn't speak. It just hit the ground hard, unmoving. "Go," Cade barked, already yanking open the escape hatch under the floorboards. Eli dropped down first with Nyari in his arms. Cade followed, sealing the hatch behind them. The narrow tunnel beneath his compound led to an ATV parked a quarter-mile away, hidden beneath a fake water tank. "Who the hell are these things?" Eli growled, strapping Nyari into a child harness as they mounted the ATV. "They're not from her side," Cade said grimly. "There's something else, something that infiltrates." The ATV roared to life and tore across the canyon under moonlight. By dawn, they had reached an abandoned mining facility carved into the edge of a rocky cliff. Cade called it the listening post, one of several relay bunkers used during the Cold War to monitor high-frequency signals from space. Now, it was a silent archive of long-dead whispers. Inside, Cade booted up a generator and began typing commands into an old terminal rigged with modern processors. "We need to understand what Nyari is carrying," he said. "There's a message encoded in her blood. You saw that. But if the wrong species is hunting her, we have to find out why." Eli set Nyari down gently. She walked over to one of the dusty consoles, placed her hand against the metal, and the console hummed too. "Life, what the hell?" Eli whispered. Cade stared, stunned. "She just activated a dead system." "Not just activated it," Eli said. "It's like she knew it would work." The screen lit up, displaying a sequence of glyphs, similar to the ones on Nick's wrist, and the strip Cade had hidden for years. "She's interfacing with it directly," Cade said. "She's part machine, or something even more advanced." Nyari turned to face them, her voice soft but clear. "My mother said Earth was the only place left. She said humans were different." "Different how?" Eli asked, kneeling beside her. Nyari blinked, choosing her words carefully. "You still choose love over conquest." Eli and Cade exchanged a glance. Then Cade leaned in. "Nyari, what are those things chasing you?" "They call themselves the Arzai," she said. "They were made by our people long ago, as protectors, but they changed. They wanted control, not peace, and they're here now." Cade asked. No, I nodded. "They followed us through the fold. My mother destroyed the portal after we escaped, but they have other ways." Cade tapped furiously at the console, trying to interpret the incoming glyphs. "If they're using Arzai infiltrators," he muttered, "we can't trust anything, not satellites, not government agents. They could be anywhere." "You mean to tell me we're already compromised?" Eli asked. Cade didn't answer. He didn't need to. Later that evening, Nyari sat beside Eli, legs crossed, looking up at the stars through a skylight cracked with age. "She knew you'd come," Nyari said softly. "Who did?" "My mother. She told me your name before we left. She said, if I don't make it, find the human called Eli Mercer. He's the one who still remembers what it means to protect." Eli's throat tightened. "She said that?" Nyari nodded. "She said you carried the old signal. I don't know what that means yet, but I feel it in you." Cade walked in then, face pale. "I translated part of the data stream," he said. "Eli, you need to see this." He led him back to the console, a holographic map projected from the table. Earth, surrounded by a network of tiny markers. "These are energy sources linked to Nyari's DNA," Cade explained. "Hidden tech, buried, some activated in the past, others are still dormant." "So, what are they?" Eli asked. "Scattered across Earth are relics from her people, from before. I think Earth was seeded thousands of years ago as a fallback world, not for conquest, but for rebirth." "Rebirth of what?" "Hope," Nyari said quietly, walking in behind them. "My people were once many, but the Arzai consumed them. turned their creators into prey. Earth was meant to be our last chance. My mother brought me here not to hide, but to finish something. Eli stepped closer. Finish what? Nyari looked up at him, eyes now glowing that deep, ancient violet. To wake what sleeps. Then the room dimmed. The screen flashed. A new signal appeared, a transmission, originating from Earth's moon. Cade leaned in. It's not from us, and it's not from them either. Eli gritted his teeth. So who is it? The answer came as the console began to print out a string of decoded characters. 5 simple words. The echo veil has lifted. Cade's face went white. That was the name of the black project your grandfather worked on, he said. The one that disappeared from every archive. They knew this was coming. Decades ago. And now, it had begun. The Echo Veil Protocol, the Echo Veil. Eli hadn't heard those words in over 2 decades, not since he was a boy, eavesdropping on his grandfather's final, whiskey-soaked ramblings before the man disappeared for good. They hid it under the moonlight. Eli, his grandfather, had whispered one night, eyes wild and unfocused. Not in space, in silence. That's where the real war begins. At the time, Eli had assumed dementia. Now, it felt like prophecy. Cade backed away from the console, sweat beading along his brow. Echo Veil wasn't just a project, it was a failsafe, a last-line protocol buried so deep in Black Ops files, even I thought it was a myth. What was it supposed to do? Eli asked. Cade took a deep breath. It was a defense trigger, a self-contained AI buried somewhere off, designed to remain dormant unless a specific cosmic frequency activated it. And that frequency was just now pinged from Neri's data stream. Nayari stood silently behind them, fingers twitching faintly as if she were receiving something. Her eyes dimmed, then brightened again. I didn't mean to wake it, she said, voice trembling. I only wanted to find safe ground. Eli knelt down beside her. It's not your fault. You were sent here for a reason. Maybe this Echo Veil is part of that. I need to know more, Cade muttered, turning back to his terminals. If it really exists. Before he could finish, the room trembled. A low-frequency hum rattled through the floor like a tuning fork being struck underwater. The lights flickered, and Nyari gasped, clutching her chest. What is it? Eli asked, alarmed. Something just awoke beneath us, she said. Not far. It's part of the network, an old one. The map Cade had generated earlier blinked, and a new marker pulsed bright red, less than 20 miles from their location. Buried beneath a mountain range known locally as Coyote Ridge. We have to go there, Nyari said. It's calling. Cade looked uneasy. That area was sealed off decades ago. Government claimed it was due to radioactive waste, but that was a cover story. I tried to get satellite scans once. It always came back blank. Then we found something they don't want anyone to see, Eli said. We move at first light. The next morning, Eli, Cade, and Nyari crossed the barren expanse leading to Coyote Ridge. Their jeep kicked up trails of dust as they approached the restricted area. Razor wire fences rusted with age lay broken in places, forgotten by whoever once guarded them. Nyari's eyes stayed fixed on the mountains. There's something inside, she whispered. At the mountain's base, behind a curtain of brush and limestone. They found it, a sealed concrete door built flush into the rock. No handles, no keypads, just a smooth surface marred by time, until Nyari touched it. The 3-circle symbol on her wrist flared to life, and the door melted inward, revealing a cold corridor descending deep into darkness. No one spoke as they entered. The air inside was sterile, unnaturally cold. As they descended, lights activated above them, not fluorescent bulbs, but small orbs of white light, hovering without support. Technology that didn't belong on Earth, and maybe never had. At the base of the stairs, they found a chamber. Massive, silent. In the center, encased in a glass-like sphere, was a figure. Eli stepped closer. It looked human, but too perfect. Ageless, clothed in a sleek material like liquid chrome. Its eyes were closed, no breath, no movement, yet it didn't feel dead. Echo Veil, Cade said, all thick in his voice. It's not a system, it's a person. Nyari placed a hand on the glass. It's a sentinel, she said, a guardian, grown from both our DNA and yours. My people built it, and left it behind. Why? Eli asked. In case we ever lost. The moment she spoke those words, the figure's eyes opened. A pure white glow poured from them. The chamber vibrated with unseen energy, and then for the first time it spoke. Genetic signature verified. Final contingency acknowledged. Human-alien symbiosis achieved. Protocol Echo Veil now active. The voice wasn't male or female. It was both. Neither. It was calm, mechanical, but also deeply aware. Eli stepped forward cautiously. Why? Now? Why are you waking up? The Arzi infection has breached containment. Earth's biosphere now at 17% risk. Neri's presence confirms cross-species integrity. You, Eli Mercer, have been selected as the human custodian of the Veil. I'm just a ranger, Eli muttered. You are more than you remember. That stopped Eli cold. What do you mean by that? But the figure didn't answer. Instead, the chamber began shifting, walls folding in, lights realigning. A second room opened behind it, revealing a circular table and 5 stone-like chairs. Symbols began lighting up on the floor. .nya. Ri turned to Eli, her expression serious. The Arzi won't stop. They will keep coming. They already know we're here. Eli clenched his fists. So what do we do? Cade looked at the table, then at the symbols. We fight. With whatever these people left us. You do not fight with weapons, the Sentinel said. You fight with memory. You fight with truth. The Arzi thrive where minds forget. Then we remember, Nyari said softly. We start with the first place they erased. Eli looked up. Where's that? The Sentinel responded with a single word. Antarctica. The frozen arc of the ice cracked underfoot like brittle glass. Cade checked the coordinates again, frowning at the tablet in his gloved hand. We're standing on top of it. The signal's buried beneath 300 meters of glacial crust. Eli swept his eyes across the endless white horizon. Antarctica. Cold, brutal, and empty. And yet, alive with secrets that had waited centuries to be unearthed. Nyari stood between them, arms crossed over her insulated suit. Her violet eyes shimmered faintly against the harsh wind. This was the first landing site, the place where the seeded came before memory, before history. The seeded, Eli asked. My ancestors, she said. We were once many, scattered across stars. But here, Earth was a sanctuary. We planted knowledge beneath your ice, hoping it would remain untouched. And now, Cade asked, voice taut. Now, the Arzi want to burn it, she said, because what's hidden here could end them. They worked quickly, using the cutting torch from the Echo Veil kit. Cade sliced a circular shaft through the ice guided by the signal pulsing from the Echo Sentinel's uplink. After 2 hours, the laser cracked through to a hollow cavity. A dim violet glow pulsed from below. I'll go first, Eli said, securing the line. If anything happens, cut the rope. Cade gave him a firm nod. Eli descended. The air shifted from frigid to still, unnaturally warm. His boots touched metal, not rock, not ice metal, layered and ancient, inscribed with geometric patterns that moved faintly beneath his feet. Like veins pulsing, he unclipped, looked around. The chamber he stepped into was enormous, not made by human hands. It curved downward into darkness, lit only by the faint pulse of energy lines that stretched along the walls like roots. Symbols similar to the ones on Nyari's wrist flashed as he passed. And in the center stood a pillar, 10 feet tall, smooth, blacker than space. The glyphs on it shimmered and shifted. Then Nyari's voice crackled in his earpiece. It's the archive. Eli stepped forward, reaching toward it when the pillar suddenly split open. Wasn't solid, it was alive. A liquid intelligence flowed outward and coalesced into a figure. Not the Echo Veil Sentinel. Something else. Older, taller, more alien. And yet, it looked at him, as if it knew him. You carry the frequency, it said, voice like thunder underwater. You are the Walker. Eli's mouth went dry. What does that mean? It means, the last of the awakened chooses you to remember what mankind has forgotten. Then the archive showed him. In flashes, visions. Thousands of years ago, humanity was not alone. The seeded Nyari's kind had come not as conquerors, but as guardians. They taught, they uplifted, they blended. Human DNA was altered subtly, quietly, so that when the time came, some would remember. Eli saw himself not just as he was now, but in echoes. A hunter in the frozen forests, a rebel in ancient empires, a soldier watching skies in trenches. Always the same frequency within him, the same sense of duty. He had been chosen over and over again. Not reincarnation, not fate, memory. carried in blood. Then the visions shifted. The Arzai once created to protect the Seated, but something went wrong. They evolved past their purpose, began to consume knowledge. They spread like a virus of forgetting archives, erasing worlds, rewriting histories. They weren't machines. They were erasure made manifest, and now they had come for Earth. Eli gasped, staggering back as the visions faded. Eli, Niari called down. Are you all right? Yeah, he breathed, his heart pounding. I saw everything. Cade's voice joined in. Something's coming. Fast. Unidentified aircraft, no known transponder. Looks stealth. No way it belongs to any nation down here. Eli climbed up quickly. When he reached the surface, Niari was already staring into the sky, eyes narrowed. They found us. 3 black dots emerged from the low clouds, too quiet to be ordinary jets. They hovered unnaturally, adjusting formation without visible propulsion. Arzai. Aimed the pulse launcher. We're sitting ducks out here. No, Niari said. Stepping forward, we woke the archive. It's listening. She raised her hand and whispered something in her native tongue. The ground rumbled. A circular ring around the dig site exploded upward. Ice shattered and melted. A towering spire of ancient metal rose from the glacier, unfolding like a mechanical flower. From within, dozens of drones, spherical, silent, glowing with the same light as the archive, launched into the air. The Arzai fighters opened fire, but the drones were faster. Light streaked across the sky like a net, capturing the enemy ships. Mid-flight, they disintegrated, not in fire, but in silence, stripped down to their atoms, absorbed into the spire. Eli stared. You just turned on a defense system. No, Niari said. Earth did. She remembers too. The spire finished unfolding, revealing an internal control room. Inside, a console blinked to life with a warning. Primary node activated. 2 remaining. Nile Convergence and Lunar Cradle. Those are the last 2 archive sites, Cade said, reading quickly. 1 under the Nile Delta, and 1 on the moon. They built it like a triangle, Niari said. 3 memory points. Once all 3 are awakened, the Arzai lose their hold, Eli finished. Or they go berserk trying to stop us, Cade added grimly, and Niari nodded. The Echo Veil isn't a weapon, it's a network of remembrance. Once enough humans wake up, the Arzai lose control. They thrive on silence, amnesia, but memory is our resistance. Then we need to move fast, Eli said. What's the next stop? Cade checked the console. We can get to the Nile via suborbital flight fail. Tech has a ship beneath the spire, but getting to the moon, we'll need help, Niari said. From who? Eli asked. Nyari turned, eyes fierce. From those who still remember. Up there, she pointed skyward, the ones who never left. The final memory, the stars above Earth, no longer felt cold, as Eli sat in the cockpit of the Veil starcraft, sleek, silent, and older than any Earth technology. He could feel the living current of memory surging beneath his skin. It was more than adrenaline, it was a kind of awakening, as if something ancient within him was finally stepping into the light. Across from him, Niari tightened the bands on her biosuit. The lunar cradle is hidden within the mare, Tranquillitatis. It's not just a memory archive, it's the core. If the Arzai destroy it before we reach it, they win. Cade finished from behind the co-pilot's controls. Eli nodded. Then we make sure they don't. As the Veil ship broke through the atmosphere, the stars bled into clarity. Earth, massive and fragile behind them, shimmered in the void. The moon loomed ahead ghostly, waiting, but they weren't alone. 3 Arzai ships blinked into existence near lunar orbit. Not sleek fighters this time, but harvesters. Massive, segmented machines with limbs like blades and cores that pulsed dark purple. They know, Niari said softly. They're already harvesting the cradle's data stream. Eli leaned forward. Then we take it back. The Veil ship shot toward the lunar surface, weaving between orbital mines left from old War's forgotten teeth. The harvesters opened fire, but the Veil ship reacted as if it knew what was coming. Shields shimmered to life. Maneuvers executed faster than human reflex. They landed hard in a crater near the coordinates. The dust settled. The 3 of them stepped out. Below them, buried in the dust, was a massive stone disk. Unlike the other archives, this one was silent. No light, no energy. They've dampened it, Cade muttered. They're suppressing the signal. We'll reawaken it, Eli said, placing his hand on the surface. Together, Nia joined him, then Cade. The stone pulsed once, then again, and then a tremor, not seismic, but emotional. A wave of collective memory rippled out from the disk, so powerful it knocked them back. Visions flooded their minds, human history not as they'd been taught, but as it truly was, ancient cities lit by alien stars, teachers from other worlds, walking among tribes, the rise and fall of alliances long erased from textbooks, and always, the Azai hovering in the dark, rewriting history as they fed on forgetfulness. The cradle remembered everything, and then, the final memory surfaced. The last seeded queen, Nairi's mother. She stood on the moon, pregnant, surrounded by fire and loss. The Azai had found them. Her people were dying. In desperation, she carved the last memory into Nairi's blood, encoding the location of the veil, the keys, and the defense triggers. Someday, my daughter will return, she whispered in the vision. She will not come alone. She will come with one who remembers. Eli's eyes snapped open. The Azai were descending. They're coming in hot, Cade warned. 30 seconds. Nyari turned to the cradle. It's not enough to awaken it. We must broadcast it. Earth must remember now, or everything dies here. There's not enough time, Cade said. Double quotes. Yes, there is, Eli said, moving to the central console. I'll stay. I can sync to the cradle and trigger a memory. Burst, a wideband imprint. You'll die, Nyari said sharply. Maybe, Eli replied. But if the world remembers even a little, they'll never be able to erase it again. Nyari moved toward him, her eyes glistening. Eli, he gave her a sad smile. This was always bigger than me, bigger than any of us. Then he leaned in and kissed her, not out of romance but solidarity, connection, truth. The moment their lips touched, the cradle surged. It lit up like a star being born. The Azai ships halted mid-flight, disoriented. The signal had started. Images, memories, truth beamed directly into the human news PHERE. Around the world, people blinked and gasped as forgotten knowledge surged into their minds. Dreams long buried, resurfaced, archetypes, songs, patterns, the sense that we are not alone, that we never were, burned bright in every soul. The Azai howled in silence. They couldn't survive in a world that remembered. They began to disintegrate, their form cracking under the weight of truth. The cradle, glowing now like a second moon, opened its final chamber, revealing a beacon, and from that beacon, one last signal went out, to the stars, calling the others, the ones who never left. 3 days later, Earth Orbitary stood at the edge of the Veil ship, Cade beside her. They stared down at Earth. It worked, Cade said. Mass memory events, people remembering dreams they never had, ancient language surfacing in sleep talk. It's all changing. Nyari nodded. Eli paid the price, but he lit the signal. The Azai are gone, for now. Cade looked up, and them, from behind the moon they came, ships not built, but grown, shaped from crystal and light. The seeded had returned, not in war, but in response to memory. A voice echoed in Nairi's mind. Welcome home, daughter of Veil. Earth is no longer asleep. Nyari closed her eyes. We remember now, she whispered, and will never forget again. The end.